MAHA is getting the last laugh. MAHA. That's it. President Donald Trump and RFK Jr. have done what everybody said. Well, everybody on the right said they could do. Everyone on the left said it was impossible. They've united the country, Republican and Democrat. They've had a Democrat stronghold, a popular name in the Democrat Party, join the administration and make monumental moves toward making America healthy again. Yesterday, President Donald Trump hosted not just RFK Jr., the Secretary of Health and Human Services, but the entire cabinet in what is a monumental administration-wide movement to help the health of Americans and more specifically, American children moving forward. Caroline Leavitt announced to the press briefing what the plan was for the MAHA meeting, which really overtook the day and showed that when you put both sides together in a room with some really solid ideas and leadership that can lead a charge, amazing things can be accomplished.
After today's briefing, President Trump will hold a Make America Healthy Again event alongside Secretary Kennedy and several other cabinet secretaries to unveil the MAHA Commission report. President Trump wants every child in America to grow up and to live a long and healthy life. That's why he's working alongside Secretary Kennedy to end the chronic disease epidemic to keep our children healthy, safe, and disease-free. The MAHA Commission report is a historic assessment, the first of its kind by any presidential administration, of current evidence and research about the health crisis affecting America's children. This report is a review of pre-existing research to comprehensively assess what we understand about our health problems and what we don't understand, and how we can find those answers. All of the findings will be based on the gold standard of science. And I think I speak for all MAHA moms across the country when I say we look forward to the president's event and remarks later this afternoon. MAHA
moms around the country who are excited about the prospect of having their kids live long, healthy lives. And that is something that is legitimately in a concern because what's his name? It was Secretary Buttigieg. I always forget his name, but anyway, he's in charge of the Food and Drug Administration, I believe. And here's what he said about some startling statistics regarding the future of our families moving forward if we don't change a thing.
I'm not going to go over the depressing statistics, but I want to highlight one fact that comes out of this report that is ringing sharply in my mind ever since I've read this version, actually even the earlier versions. Our kids if things go on as we are, will live shorter, less healthy lives than we did. I have 3 children. I don't want that for them. I want them to live longer lives, healthier lives, happier lives than I have. And what this report says in its heart is that that's not happening right now and is not likely to happen unless we change things.
Director of the NIH, the National Institute of Health, Jay Bhattacharya, I believe is how you pronounce that. It doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is startling that according to statistics, according to the science, according to what's happening right now, if we don't make any changes, if Donald Trump doesn't make any changes, if RFK Jr. doesn't make any changes, this generation of children will have shorter, unhealthier lives than we do. And that is a startling statistic, and that is something that definitely should be eye-opening. And that is why President Donald Trump says he created this MAHA report or this MAHA commission in the very first place.
4 months ago, I created the Presidential Commission to Make America Healthy Again, and today the commission officially delivers its first report on childhood health. Here are just some of the alarming findings, and they really are alarming. It's unbelievable, terrible. More than 40% of American children now have at least one chronic health condition. Since the 1970s, rates of childhood cancer have soared in many cases by nearly 50%, 50%. Well, in the 1960s, less than 5% of the children were obese. Now over 20% are obese. A few decades ago, 1 in 1, think of this one. This is to me the one that gets me every time, and it seems to be getting worse. Just a few decades ago, 1 in 10,000 children had autism. Today it's 1 in 31. Last time I heard the number is 1 in 34, right? Now it's 1 in 31. There's something wrong, and we will not stop until we defeat the chronic disease epidemic in America. We're going to get it done. For the first time ever, this report examines some of the root causes that many believe are making our children sicker and our population sicker, I guess. It just doesn't stop with the children. It's our population also, such as the ultra-processed foods, over-medicalization and over-prescription and widespread exposure to potentially toxic chemicals. Unlike other administrations, we will not be silenced or intimidated by the corporate lobbyists or special interests. And I want this group to do what they have to do. We have to spell it out. In some cases, it won't be nice or it won't be pretty, but we have to do it. When you hear 10,000, it was 1 in 10,000, and now it's 1 in 31 for autism. I think that's just a terrible thing. It has to be something on the outside, it has to be artificially induced, has to be. And we'll not allow our public health system to be captured by the very industries it's supposed to oversee. So we're demanding the answers. The public is demanding the answers, and that's why we're here.
That's why MAHA exists. That's why the entire cabinet is working diligently together to get to the bottom of it. But President Donald Trump utilizing common sense once again. Utilizing common sense and saying, look, here's the problem. It never was an issue. Now it's really bad. What's happening? What's causing it? And RFK Jr. for years, for decades, has made this one of his life's goals, is to try to figure out how to make people healthy, how to make kids healthy, how to cut out the artificial dyes and ingredients in foods that are just unnecessary and could be dangerous, how to hold prescription drug companies and pharmaceutical companies responsible for any and all harm that they may be causing with the subscribing of these medications to our nation's children and to really everybody. And RFK Jr. really sitting there with a sense of pride when he announced how this commission was formed and the work that they've been able to do and what they're going to do moving forward to make sure that we cease this unhealthy behavior in the United States of America, because our health is number one. We cannot be wealthy. We cannot be strong if we aren't healthy. We must live as long as possible so that we can do as much good as we can possibly do.
All of us agree that the U.S. will cease to be a world superpower if we continue spending 2 times more than any country on health care while living less than citizens of other countries and enduring fertility crisis, a crisis in recruiting people to the military, and the ruinous health care costs. Health expenditures are the largest part of the federal budget, and we get sicker for each and every dollar we spend. 90% of that spending is going for chronic disease. And everyone agrees it's a moral failing that U.S. children are on track today to live shorter lives than their parents. The first time in American history where that is the case. This report is the first time in modern American history that the federal government gives a clear-eyed assessment of what is happening to children's health and the potential causes.
And that is an important distinction to make. This is the first time that the federal government makes a distinction about health, a declaration about children's health. The first time the federal government has ever said, we've got an epidemic here. And no, we're not talking about COVID. We're not talking about any kind of pandemic. We're talking about an epidemic of a health crisis created by food companies, drug companies, the government turning a blind eye. We've artificially with artificial ingredients, we've created this crisis, and now it's up to the government to try to figure out a way to get out of it. And Donald Trump said, we're going to do it. We're going to do it whether we make suggestions or whether we put down the strong arm of the law, however, the iron fist, whatever. We're going to save our children, because this is truly ridiculous. And it's something that we have to get done. Stephen Miller was in this meeting as well. Stephen Miller, you may know, is the deputy chief of staff in charge of the border and deportation issues. But he's also very concerned about the MAHA movement. And he's somebody who is very effective in President Donald Trump's cabinet and is working not just on one part of the agenda, but he's a multifaceted individual who can do a lot of things. And he made a statement about RFK Jr., which I don't think should go. Typically we hear the fiery rhetoric from Stephen Miller about the murderers and the thugs and the drug dealers and the gang members who were trying to deport back to Venezuela and El Salvador. But this was a very heartfelt moment where he praised Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and wanted to make sure everybody was aware of just what a consequential moment this was in American political history.
President Trump is
Hold on, the clip is actually this clip here.
Thank you, Bobby. I can't tell you how much that means to me, and thank you as well, Lee, for the very kind words. And you're right, I think about this first and foremost through the prism of being a dad of 3 young children, and I'm married to a MAHA mom. My wife, Katie, is the one who deserves all the credit for educating me about this issue on the birth of our children. But I first want to just take a moment for us to think about how extraordinary this moment is, that Bobby's sitting there right now, not as a private citizen, not as the leader of a nonprofit, but as the Secretary of Health and Human Services, right, behind government seal, issuing, this is a government report, right? His whole life, Bobby has issued private reports, held private press conferences, engaged in private advocacy. And after generations of all of that work, his life's work now has a government seal on it. Think about how remarkable that is.
And it's not just a government seal, it's a government seal under a Republican administration. It's a government seal under Donald Trump's administration, not Joe Biden's, not Barack Obama's, not all these people who claimed that they were the party of Kennedy and they were the party of the working man and they were the party of the little guy and they were the party of the middle class. No, it's truly President Donald Trump and the current day Republicans, the administration that is currently there, who have brought in a Democrat or former and put him in charge of this issue not because of his party affiliation, but because he was the right guy for the job. And what he's been able to accomplish, not just him, but the entire cabinet, is remarkable. And of course, in true Robert F. Kennedy Jr. fashion, he does, of course, put the thanks or the praise toward President Donald Trump.
President Trump is a populist president. He's a president. He's blamed for giving money to billionaires and all this stuff. We hear about that all the time. But he is on the side of the middle class, the working class, the poor in this country, people. And I've been following, I've met every president since my uncle was president. And I've never seen a president, Democrat or Republican, that is willing to stand up to industry when it's the right thing to do, and they're willing to talk about really difficult issues and to hold his stand on those issues. I've never seen anything like it, and I'm very, very grateful to you. I've sat with industry again and again in a room with him and heard him say, we can't do that. We're going to do something different, deliver news that they didn't want to hear. Oh, I'm grateful to this. This is a milestone. There's never in American history has the federal government taken a position on public health like this. And because of President Trump's leadership, it's not just one cabinet secretary, it's the entire government that is behind this report. And I can say again, I talked a little bit about when I met Rachel Carson as a boy. My uncle tried to do this, but he was killed and it never got done. And ever since then, we've been waiting for a president who would stand up and speak on behalf of the health of the American people and say, there is no difference between good economic policy, good environmental policy, and good public health policy, and good industrial policy. We can have all of them, but we need a united cabinet, and we need to go forward as a single people.
And that is exactly what's happening. President Donald Trump has assembled his entire cabinet, and they're working diligently together because this is a phenomenon that I have not seen in any president in my lifetime. I've never seen a cabinet that is so intertwined. It's not just you're the Secretary of Health and Human Services, go do your thing. You're the Secretary of Education, go do your thing. You're the Secretary of Agriculture, go do your thing. They're always working together. Same with Homeland Security and Defense and State. All of these cabinet members offer their expertise and their services and their assets when it's called for. And that is why it's so effective. And to prove that point, the RFK Jr., the Secretary of Health and Human Services, and President Donald Trump and Stephen Miller were joined by Linda McMahon, the Secretary of Education, because education and schools are an important part about making healthy choices. And Brooke Rollins, the Secretary of Agriculture, who said, look, we need to make sure that we are not incentivizing people to eat badly or make poor choices. And that's why she had a huge announcement about SNAP.
The second thing is that you mentioned, sir, in your remarks that we are on track to sign multiples of SNAP waivers to get junk food and sugary drinks out of our food stamp system. And I am so proud. I am so proud to announce that on Monday, I was in Nebraska with Governor Pillen, where we signed the first one. An hour ago, I signed the second one for Governor Braun in Indiana. He may not even know that. I've got it right here, sir. I also signed the third one, Governor Kim Reynolds of Iowa, about an hour ago. With a half a dozen more coming down the line. And sir, that has never happened before. Under Republican or Democrat administrations, we have never made that happen before. So I am so proud and so grateful for your leadership.
We have Governor Morrissey here, who was the first one to apply from West Virginia.
Oh, Governor Morrissey.
I mean, you can tell. See, everybody's involved. Everybody's excited. Everybody's doing what they can do. And if we can keep SNAP payments from paying for or subsidizing deadly foods with these horrible dyes and other ingredients that are making our children unhealthy, well, then that's the right thing to do. And President Donald Trump gets it, and Brooke Rollins gets it, and RFK Jr. gets it, and everybody gets it, except of course CNN. CNN, they don't get it.
And you're watching companies now that are changing their ingredients because of this movement, that are making good food more available to Americans because they're demanding it. There was no demand for it before. This report is about getting every American to demand the accessibility to good whole food in their neighborhoods. And that, it's going to be a process, but it's already happening. You see these big fast food conglomerates that are switching from seed oils to beef tallow fat. You see them reducing the ingredients. You see Chobani yogurt changing its ingredients because of the demand that has happened because of the MAHA movement. We are going to make sure they have apps that mothers who go into the grocery store have an app that they can show the flash on the barcode of every product and get a green light, red light, or yellow light. That will allow them.
HHS is creating that?
We're working with industry to do it, and they're already doing it. Mark Hyman's company has done it. Patrick Sonsingh's company has done it. There are many, many apps out there that I use one called Yucca. That is my wife and I consider it invaluable. You can go into any grocery store, flash it at any product, and you can get a go or a no on it. And as that happens, the market. We're not trying to create an anti-state here. We're trying to drive market forces that will drive change in the kind of food Americans get.
Right, and what he's able to do with the utilization of these apps, with the utilization of these programs, is self-incentivize these companies to make better products. If you have an app and you're walking around the grocery store and you have a product on the shelf and somebody scans it and it says, "Don't buy this," you're going to make changes to that product because you want the go, not the no. And that is exactly what's happening with the MAHA movement. And that's why President Donald Trump and RFK Jr. and the entire administration, once again, are getting the last laugh. I just like doing that. Hey, listen, we've got so much more to talk about today. We've got so much more that we have to get to, and we're going to do it in our second daily podcast, Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, which airs every single day live at 1 p.m. Eastern time. You can watch us on our live stream, or you can just download it and listen to the podcast whenever your little heart desires. Simply go to your favorite podcast platform, search Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, download, listen, and enjoy.